the only way decentralization of a community works is if there is centralization of a shared vision and story, right? Because all these people come to you for that same vision and story.
Hello everyone, and welcome yet to another episode of NewForum. NewForum brings together leaders, creators, new starters, and new perspectives on crypto, the metaverse, NFTs, social 3, and DAOs.
And on today's episode, we have a special guest, Nirmala Shome, Head of Community at the Fabricant. We'll be talking about Web3 and digital fashion and what the Fabricant is working on currently. This is going to be a great episode, so make sure you watch till the end. Hey Nirmala, we're super excited to have you on today's episode.
Hi everyone. I'm really excited to be here. I think what NewForum or what New Life is doing is like super cool, and Newcoin as well. So yeah, really excited to be here.
Amazing, yeah. So let's begin by you telling us about who you are and your journey into Web3 and technology.
Yeah, sure. So I think so at the moment I'm working at the Fabricant, which is a digital-only fashion house based in Amsterdam, and they've kind of been pioneering in the digital fashion space since, I'm going to say 2018, which feels like a lifetime ago now. But I joined them in May 2020, and it's kind of, I guess like when I joined, it was still kind of early days in like kind of the wave that has just happened recently with Web3 and crypto and NFTs. So when I joined, the company was still really working on creating digital fashion items, but kind of more as a service house. So working with brands, helping brands figure out how to kind of do their production prototyping process in 3D rather than physical because of the extreme, costs associated, inefficiencies associated with physical prototyping in the fashion industry. So, doing this digital transformation work, working with brands, creating the 3D garments. So the Fabricant has always been leaders in digital fabrication of garments, and like super high quality, beautiful details, high quality renders. And once you have that 3D garment asset, you can do a lot with it, right? So you can kind of make visuals with it, you can dress it on an avatar and simulate it and put it in film. And I think, the vision with the Fabricant has always been the metaverse and being able to dress avatars, but that use case just wasn't as prevalent back then. So the kind of the journey that the company's kind of gone from that to today has really been accelerated with kind of the movement that we see now with Web3 and NFTs and the ability to kind of mint these unique digital one-of-one garments on chain and then actually bring them into spaces and that promise of what it can kind of lead to. So when I joined, I joined as a producer, working closely with the digital fashion team and 3D team. And then I had a baby, so I was off for like a few months and the world like totally changed. And I came back and everyone was like NFTs and Web3. So actually I was kind of new to it. Like I think in 2017, I went through that phase that a lot of people did of like trying to get into Bitcoin and stuff because it was, doing well, but then it all kind of fizzled out. And then, coming back, I think like mid 2021 really is when the team really got focused on launching the platform. And I'm going to tell you a little about what that platform is. So the vision of the platform, the Fabricant Studio, is to really kind of be the base for how we create a new type of digital fashion industry, leveraging Web3 and blockchain technology as kind of the base. So what we want to do, we really strongly believe in creating an equitable economy. And what we mean by that is all the creators involved in the chain get to share in the rewards. So right now, the fashion industry is obviously very centralized and quite exclusive. How do we change that? And how do we change that using the technology that it enables us to do a lot of things with? So the way that the platform works is you can come in as a garment creator. So, someone that is digital fashion designer, how to do 3D modeling in Clo or Marvelous, or other platforms as well. So I've made like a 3D garment. Then we kind of partner with a whole series of I'm just going to call them designers because they're all from different disciplines, but they would provide the different fabrications or the different materials. So we had a really diverse group of artists, like painters, 3D designers, illustrators, graphic designers, and to give people like a really diverse palette of fabrics so they could choose from to kind of customize their garment. So you kind of have these garment creators, material creators, and we create an interface, which is called the creator. And basically you come in, you see this 3D garment, you select it. Yep, I want this jacket. It's like a white canvas element. And then you have this palette of all these fabrics that each represent a different pattern and a different artist. And you can choose the fabric, you can choose colors, and then you mint it. And when you mint that item, a smart contract gets created that actually puts the garment creator, the material creator, and the co-creator, so the person that made the combination, into that smart contract. So when that item is sold, they all receive royalties ongoingly from that garment. So we're kind of, on real time creating the smart contract, putting all these people in. And yeah, that's something that is kind of like, that we feel like is pretty new and innovative, especially in the digital fashion space. And really, the reason why we're doing that is because we want to make sure that, like we said, we're creating an ecosystem. We're not just creating a brand or something. We really need to attract creators to this space. And how do we make it something that creators come to and they thrive in this space? Like, we want them to come and basically be able to start their own business, and like start their own label, start their own whatever it is, and use our platform for that. So the way we design our smart contracts and the royalty structures is really critical to that. So so that's kind of what the platform does. And we just launched our season 1 with three garment designers. So the Fabricant was one. We provided 4 items. Darewise, which is Life Beyond, I should say, which is a game by a company called Darewise. And that is a blockchain-based game built on Polygon. And they actually provided 4 garments that you will be able to take into their game with the customizations you made, which is super cool. And then Scarlett Yang, who's this incredible independent digital fashion designer based in the UK, who's been doing incredible like digital fashion work. Her pieces are amazing. And that was kind of the garments. And then we had 14 designers with some really incredible talent, like Matthew Stone, Andy Rolfs, Krista Kim, Shaylee Harrison, who I think you've had on the show. Just like the list goes on. The Entangled Studios, so many people, and all their designs are incredible. The Internet Office too are in there. And basically, you could kind of remix these items and create your own. And we just finished the minting. And now we're kind of about to do the reveal. So the tricky thing is, we create this like 3D interface where you can kind of remix it. But then we do these super high-res renders in Unreal. So there is a little bit of like a gap between minting and getting the item. And we've been spending the last week like deep in trying to get these renders looking amazing. So we're about to do the reveal, which is super exciting. And then, is trade. And we've got season 2 coming up, where we've got really exciting collaborations with Steffi Fung, who's another incredible 3D fashion designer, and World of Women, which is super exciting, and more people. And so year 1 is really about building the platform, seeding this ecosystem to attract all the creators, to make it something that's worth their time and worth their energy, and then also attract the co-creators. So who are the kind of the next level down, who are these like trend setters who come, choose the combinations, and then obviously the collectors and the people that want to buy and wear these items. We've also built relationships with Sandbox and Decentraland and a few other metaverse partners, so that whatever you create in the platform, you can kind of take with you into different places too. So it's a lot. That's a lot to digest. But really the vision for us is, the platform is a tool to serve our community. And I think like, as much as we're building the platform, we're really building this community around digital fashion, and what it means to be a creator or a co-creator or a collector within that. So that's kind of the task that we have at the moment. So yeah, that was kind of a roundabout way of describing who I am, but
Well, I guess it is part of who you are because, this is what you do. And so it's become a part of your life, because the space is still pretty new and it's being built. And so everybody's taking their role pretty, seriously, because what we do now is going to define what is going to be in the future and what we're all looking forward to. And I really like how, the Fabricant is working really hard to make things like simplify things in a sense, because creators usually, and especially fashion designers, usually don't want to deal with all the hardcore technical stuff. So this is really great that everything is sort of been embedded in this one thing, and makes it easy, so the designer can just pick, choose, collaborate, and create and gain the value for what you're doing. And as you're talking, I was just thinking, like, with fashion forecasting, how does digital fashion influence that, or how does it happen within digital fashion?
yeah, that's a really good question. Actually, it's super interesting. So the way that it works with us, right? Like what's really cool about this process, right, where we provide almost like the pieces and the palette for people, the co-creators will come and make the combinations. And for season 1, for example, we had over 43,000 combinations. We're not expecting to mint out. This isn't like a mint out type of project, but rather it's like the combinations that do get made are a reflection of the community's trends. So rather than us doing like, the way typical industry works is like there's a runway shows and that determines the trends of the season, we're giving people this like open palette to come create the trends, and we're actually going to be doing a post mint analysis, which will be the trend report, right? Because it's going to be based on, okay, well, this is what everyone minted. So we see kind of a lot of popular with these colors or with these patterns and these garments. And so, yeah, it kind of flips that process, really, that actually the trends are created by the community. We're merely providing the framework for them to create the trends, which I think is super cool, because we can put the spotlight then on the co-creators, like, because eventually what we'd love is, rather than you following a brand, maybe you follow a co-creator because you love their creations, and actually every time they make a creation, like it gives them a layer of storytelling that is really interesting in the space.
I love that.
I think that's super innovative what you guys are doing. Having also the chance that now you can collect royalties from different projects that you can work on. I think that's perfect, because sometimes with the creative economy that wasn't there before. You might have worked on a project and then you wait for a month or two till you collect that royalty that is yours. But now smart contracts kind of make it clear from the beginning, and it solves an issue. And I also want to say that for me as a user and as a designer myself, like in digital fashion, it's so hard when you make a piece and then you kind of want to have it on you, or you kind of want to mint it, and there's challenges, like user challenges that we face, and I think that you can maybe break it down and make it more easier and more accessible, and I think that's what the space should focus on. And that's great to hear that you're providing that you're solving that problem within the space right now. Because for example, for me, I always ask myself, okay, I make this garment now, can I take it to this app, can I take it there, or how can I really use this NFT? That's something I always ask myself. Yeah,
definitely. No, and that's a really big part of it too. Interoperability, right? All these different platforms have different specs, different requirements, different levels of fidelity. All these metaverses have different specs, especially like Sandbox, which is voxelized to Decentraland, and then to Ready Player Me, and to other levels of fidelity. So what we're kind of doing, the way the platform works, is we kind of onboard all the items in just like a standard 3D model. It doesn't need to necessarily be wearable at that point in the platform. And then you can do all the modifications within the platform. And then we are facilitating the process of building the bridges with Sandbox and Decentraland and Darewise on how to bring, translate those models into different platforms. One key thing that we're kind of doing is starting with the Unreal Metahumans, because we feel like, the Metahumans that Unreal have created are a great kind of base, in the sense that a lot of game developers will be using them, and, you know, other kinds of content developers will be using them because they're really powerful and allow for a lot of customization. So that's kind of like our baseline for us, is doing that.
Could you quickly explain to the audience what are metahumans? I'm not sure if everybody knows that term.
Yeah, sure. So the metahumans are actually Unreal Engine set of default avatars that they created for developers to kind of use to kind of bring into their games, bring into their worlds, to test things. So metahumans come in, like, you know, they've got male and female, and then a whole range of different body types. And you can actually go to the Unreal site and kind of check out the metahumans and download them to kind of test with a few different body types. So it's really for developers, so they have ways to easily create their game characters, but they have incredible fidelity. Like, you can really customize the features and expressions and skin tone and hair. Like, it's really amazing, the quality. And actually, I think if you look at like the Matrix 4 game trailer, you know, they were using metahumans in that. So it's like incredible fidelity. So if we're building with those as the base bodies, we're hoping that that also means, you know, for all these people using metahumans and Unreal, it's going to also be super interoperable in future when we can support higher fidelity in metaverses and games and things like that. Because the goal is that all these items, so say you come and create an item on our site, you could potentially lease that item to someone to put in a game or in a movie, and the items that we create are super, super high fidelity. We're translating them down at the moment for Sandbox and Decentralization, just because they're lower pixel and lower quality. But the original asset is like, we could render these out at 8K, you know, like that's how high quality the originals are. So yeah, in future, hopefully they'll have utility.
So my question is, when you're explaining metahumans, I was also thinking about avatars and what's like the connection.
Yeah, exactly. They're kind of like avatars. So for example, it could even be, so at the moment we see this movement with PFPs and like kind of these low 2D avatars, but it could be that, you know, as we get into like people moving into metaverses, you'll have a 3D avatar, and potentially, you know, metahumans could provide the base for an avatar creator as well. You know, this the same way Ready Player Me, Zepeto, all these platforms are kind of these avatar creators. Unreal Engine isn't an avatar creator, but someone could create an avatar creator using the metahumans as the base. But it's essentially, yeah, it's like that. Like, I think that will be coming as we move more and more into 3D spaces, like how you can customize your own 3D avatar. Because at the moment, yeah, it's interesting. At the moment, we're kind of in this early days phase where it's actually not so much about representing yourself in the avatar, like with the PFP movement. It's like representing who you are, which community you're in, which is really interesting. So yeah, so I think we're a little bit away from the kind of 3D avatar becoming really widespread, but you kind of see it a little bit like Artifact with the CloneX drop. Those are like, you know, more anime style, but all 3D avatars that are fully rigged and things like that.
Right. I also, this reminds me of one of our guests. She mentioned something that in a perfect metaverse world, we will take all of our clothes and our avatars to different platforms. So I think we still have a long way to go, but maybe in half a year, it will look totally different, the metaverse or concept of how these avatars and things gonna look like. So I want to touch a bit about the role that you have at the Fabricant, you know, head of community. And I want to ask you, what is important when building a Web3 community? Like, what have you realized with your job? What has been like a key learning kind of through building communities?
Yeah, you know what's really interesting about Web3 community? It's like, it's about, you know, like where we're at right now, and what we're really focused on is actually building the infrastructure for community. So like, how does your community connect? Because ultimately the value of your community is the sum of your community's many to many connections, right? It's not, you know, the Fabricant can be out just constantly putting out media and talking. But if our community members are not connecting to each other and building that, it's actually, yeah, that's the value of community. And so what you need for that is infrastructure for people to connect. So obviously Discord is one piece of infrastructure, which is, you know, great and has its obviously a lot of downsides in how it's designed and how it kind of works. But that's like one part of infrastructure. Another part of infrastructure is how you use the chain to connect people in community. So for example, if everyone in your community has wallets and you're able to kind of reward different, ways community members, do things within your ecosystem with tokens like POAP tokens, then you can kind of start to reward the behaviors and kind of direct people into like, okay, this is the really meaningful behaviors that we want to kind of reward. But again, that's an infrastructure thing. Like you need to kind of have, that on-chain setup. You need people to have wallets. You need to have services like POAP set up to do that. And yeah, so it's interesting. I think like where we're at now is like really thinking about the infrastructure, like even Discord verification bots. Like that's something that we're looking at working with on how to design those. How do we kind of measure the connections between, how do we, like, rather than just looking at like, oh, this is how many people joined our Discord, we're really interested in who are the community members that instead of, our community managers welcoming someone, they did, who are those people? Like, how do we like bring more of that energy in? So I'd say we're at the stage of like just really thinking about the infrastructure of our community and how we set it up so that we allow for this work to work. And then on top of that, it's like, okay, what's the engagement that really gets people to then come in and connect and like go through all the pipes that we create. The other critical thing with community that we're really learning is, storytelling and narrative. Something about this whole concept of decentralized. The only way decentralization of a community works is if there is centralization of a shared vision and story, right? Because all these people come to you for that same vision and story. And that kind of is what governs everyone within it, in the sense that they're all kind of working towards the same shared vision. So what is that shared vision? How do you communicate it? How do you get people to engage with it? So each drop that we're doing, it's not just like a marketplace drop where it's like, okay, this is being released. Each drop is about the artist. How are we kind of engaging the community? Like, for example, for the Steffi Fung drop, we've got this really exciting concept, right? Her whole collection is designed around the zodiac. And so we're kind of creating this really interesting, we're going to talk about it more, but like this kind of interesting mechanics and ways that different people can engage based on like these different tokens and different NFTs they get. And it kind of creates like a game layer on top of the marketplace and on top of the co-creation that isn't just come and buy, it's about come and create and play and learn. That's the other big thing. We'll move on to the other big thing with building community, especially in Web3 and digital fashion. Most of our community is not Web3 native or crypto native. So we have a lot of work to do in onboarding people in a safe way, because, the space is rife with scams. Like, it's just insane. Every day I hear about something terrible happening. So, that's also a big part of community. It's like teaching people, how to use Web3 and like why it's important, and also kind of guiding them in a way that is safe and, in line with the vision, right? Like, we're not just trying to onboard people in to flip our items, like that's one way to do it, right? Like, you kind of come in, you can buy and sell, but how do you onboard people in the long-term vision to be like an active member, to be an ambassador for your brand? Like, that's really the long-term goal. So yeah, I'd say the key things: infrastructure, and the storytelling, and then also the education part is like, lots of, and there's more stuff to that, but those are kind of a few big ones.
I think that's so important, because we realize as well that building community is an ongoing act, and it takes a lot of effort. And, we always reflect of like, how can we make this message better, or how can we really interact with our community better? And it's something that we're not prepared for. So it's really a role where you have to grow, and you have to kind of learn fast and just, go with what you think is right. And but like you said, education, storytelling, and infrastructure are so important, because you can have people who might know a bit about crypto and then you have people who are already there, and how do you kind of bridge all these people? But in the end, they all are there for the reason that they love the idea and they love the storytelling and they love the project. So I think the best way, at least for me, is to talk to people, and then they refer projects to me or they refer designers to me, and I'm like, that's kind of how I find projects, or I'm finding my way into it, because it can really be overwhelming, you know?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. No, it's a really good point. And I think like, yeah, that's it. I think that's it. It's like, how do you find stuff? It's through other Discords. Like, it's amazing how many people come to us. Oh, I saw someone posting about this in another Discord. Like, you know, like how we have to change our communication streams as well to really think about partnering with other community. It's like community to community CRM, you know, versus just like your typical, I don't know, it's really interesting, like how I got this hot tip about how you can kind of bootstrap community by like using, you know, all these verification bots who say, you know, if we wanted to verify a community, you could set up Collabland and like all these people could come and verify that they're part of this community. And then once you have that, once you know that they're like, you know, part of this community, you can drop them a token or something that then connects you to them, which is really incredible when you think about that as like a, you know, from a like marketing type point of view. Yeah.
And I wanted to add that, you know, how within the Web3 space, we use the word ecosystem a lot, you know, and that's quite complex, even in biology, right? And so it requires a lot of work, a lot of research. And like Joyce said, you know, you grow with a process kind of, and then you keep evolving, because it's not something that you can just figure out. You know, you cannot just do your research online and just figure out how to build a community, a sustainable community. It has to kind of figure itself out, as the word ecosystem is. It's complex and there are different parts to it, the environment, the mission, the purpose, and just everybody focusing on like this vision and common interest. And this is kind of what keeps them engaged. And before you know, the community has sort of formed itself and it's where it needs to be. So however, like you said, the infrastructure is really important, because within Web3, it's technology. So you need the right technology to be able to achieve all of that. So yeah, that's awesome. And so I'm interested to know, like, how has the Fabricant like collaborated with any gaming industry? Like, is there anything happening there? I'd love to hear.
Yeah, we are. We're kind of, so Darewise is a gaming platform, and their game Life Beyond is a game based in built on Polygon. And so that for season 1, we actually had 4 items, 4 garments from the game in the platform, so people could come and customize it. And what we're going to do is actually make those garments available in the game. So Darewise could come in, create the garment, and they can take it back in the game. And that's 100% the type of things we want to prototype. We also, when we did like a drop at the end of 2020, in collaboration with eBaller, Engine, and Atari, and we created this like Atari dress and a few different variations that you could actually take into a game. So that was kind of a first prototype of that. But yeah, 100%, we're really interested in the gaming space. And actually, you know, to your point earlier, like about ecosystems and kind of seeing, you know, I think we really take the analogy to gaming quite deep and really think about our platform as like a form of play. And, you know, this whole creation and like even the marketplace and wearing, like it's this form of long kind of extended play. And, you know, the critical thing with games, especially with games that have longevity, is, you know, this idea of like emergent gameplay or emergent behavior. So stuff that you can't plan for, right? So it's really interesting for us, like this is what year 1 for us is really about, is like creating these kind of spaces, like these drops or releases, that we can see how people play with them. Like, you know, the creator tool is one form of play. Like, what do people want to customize and what do they create? We don't know, you know, that's kind of an experiment. The next one for Steffi Fung, we're kind of introducing another layer of game mechanic. Who knows what people will gravitate towards? And so like with each one, we're trying to learn. And so we've really taken this like the gaming analogy and like how you design a game, not exactly like a game, but the principles of designing play or like engagement from that gaming world. And we're also working really closely with Sandbox. So some of our garments will be available in Sandbox. And I think, in that sense, it's going to be super cool. But yeah, like platforms like that. Yeah.
I think it's so cool, like what you just said about gaming. Before, I never draw the line between fashion and gaming, and now it's just like it makes so much sense. Like looking back at The Sims or all these games that we played growing up, and now it kind of all just clicks. And like you said, making a game is also very complex if you think about the idea of making a game, because you have to kind of see, okay, where do I draw the line, where I do let people play freely, and how do I really get that fun element into this play, I'm wondering if you guys think about things like where to earn, these kind of concepts, and because that's something that I've been interested about as well, like how this whole gaming and concepts like where to earn can influence creators, influencers, and the whole social media space kind of. So
definitely. No, we definitely think about that. And I think like it's really interesting, like, because I feel like we do think about where to earn, or like how do you get utility. So for example, could you rent your pieces to someone to use the same way that you can like maybe or sell, share your items with other people. And wearing to earn, like that's definitely a model we can kind of look at. And I think like the other thing we want to kind of really look though at like all the different types of play, right? Like creation is a type of play. You could be a buyer, right? For someone, if a brand is like, oh, we need to buy all the, I'm a digital brand, we're sending a digital buyer out to the marketplace. That's a form of earning, to be a buyer, to be a stylist. You take the pieces, you style it. So we're really trying to look at the earn throughout the entire, every single action. There could potentially be a revenue stream if that's what the ecosystem kind of filter kind of gravitates towards. Like one thing that is really interesting for us is like this idea of utility tailoring, so bringing into the metaverse. So how do we, so say you've created this digital garment and I want to take it to Sandbox. How do you do that, right? It needs to be voxelized. It needs to kind of then be imported. Could we create this like new type of industry or new type of role, job, which is literally utility tailoring? So I'm a voxel tailor. You give me your dress, I'll voxelize it for you and you can take it. I'm an AR tailor. You can make a filter for you and you can take it into SnapLens or whatever. I'm a Decentralization tailor, or, whatever it is. That's like a new job basically, but that was 100% what will happen. In the same way, you've got something in Sandbox and I want to import it into the creator, like that's also a service. So yeah, there's like this whole pipeline of roles that we're thinking about that people, if it is desired and if it is shows that there is kind of an industry there, can turn into a revenue stream.
Like what you just touched on is so true, because I was seeing the other day somebody posted, oh, there's head of metaverse, and I was like, this is gonna be a role, like, and then you think about how fashion roles are gonna change in the next, you have digital fashion designers, but then you also have garment specialists, or like all the things that you just mentioned. I think that's really interesting, and also it opens up a lot of possibilities for people from all around the world. You can sit in Asia, you can sit in the USA, but you can still be working on your laptop and be a fashion designer or a garment specialist, and that's amazing. I think brings a lot of diversity into the space.
Yeah, and like right now we're just playing with garments and fabrics, but we 100% want to bring in accessories, shoes, bags, like filters, auras, all kinds of, like this is just part one. So, and again, like going back to the ecosystem, it's like, how do we bring all these people to build and create what digital fashion looks like? Because right now we're still very skeuomorphic, like we're still kind of designing like it's physical, like, but really you can kind of design anything in the metaverse. So as we get deeper and deeper, it'll be interesting to see like, what does digital fashion mean? Like physics, how does physics come into fashion, and who are the people that we need to kind of make that happen? or even like music and audio is really interesting. We're kind of exploring some collaborations in the music space. You know, music and fashion has such a strong connection. How do we bring that into fashion? You know, like there's so many different things to explore, but again, we're kind of trying to create the experiments, and then that will let the community kind of tell us, you know, what is, you know, through their behaviors and through what they choose and do, what is kind of the directions and things like that.
I really can't help but think about the fashion designer students in college currently, and how this, you know, this digital era is like redefining what we know to be fashion design. And at least when I was in college and what I studied, I feel like, yeah, it's quite insane. And I hope that, you know, most of these colleges are including some sort of, I don't know, how do you say it, like courses, you know, about what's happening and the change and everything, because I just have this fear that, you know, these youngsters will graduate, come into the world, and, you know, things have changed, you know. So I guess I just thought about that. I'm like, wow, things are changing. The fashion world is changing, and a lot of these luxury fashion companies are adopting, you know. And so I think that this idea of graduating and graduating and sort of interning, and that's probably gonna change in the next. It's already changing. I mean, I do not know, but like Joy said, you can sit wherever you are and just do something. The job opportunities, the titles are just changing, and it's opening like this amazing opportunity for fashion designers out there. And it's quite exciting. However, I think we need to include that in the curriculums at the colleges at the moment, you know, to prepare these designers as they graduate and come in.
I think, no, it's definitely something we're aware of. And actually, I think that, you know, from what I've heard from people that are kind of in that space, it's still really slow moving because, you know, for a curriculum to change, it takes so long for things to get approved. But, you know, I think the education industry is going to get some serious upheavals because, you know, there's so many, that's the other cool thing about Web3. You see so many of these online Web3 learning tools now that are all on chain, that create these ways to learn. And actually, we're really looking at that too. Like, how do we create a learning platform for digital fashion designers, material designers, to help onboard them and how to create these garments, how to do it, what are all the things to think about. So I actually feel like whether or not the universities adapt or the colleges adapt, you know, the space will be there for people to learn. And 100% there's going to be there's going to be less barriers. Like, I think actually education in Web3 is such an awesome space. It really helps you connect with like-minded people, like learning groups, like definitely, like I can imagine learning fashion guilds, right? Where you create like, you know, groups of people, designers can come together around a theme or a style and really create their own community and like to learn from each other and create and put that out. And I feel like that those spaces for learning are really, really awesome.
I just remember the other day we had a talk with a lecturer from CSM, so from the school in London, and she was saying, you know, the names of the curriculums are changing, but they cannot keep up with the speed that everything is changing. And I was like, that's really like, that's interesting, you know. And now you can actually have so much knowledge on the internet, you know. I'm wondering, like, we just talked a bit about fashion brands, and what do you think is important for fashion brands to look at in the future, like especially concerning maybe sustainability and, you know, blockchain and NFTs and all these things? I'm wondering what's your thought on that.
I mean, I think the biggest thing, like definitely sustainability is critical. Like it's like a massive concern across the world for a lot of consumers and people now. And I think they need to be looking at, you know, what is the value of creating items physically? Like, what is the cost of that? And is it worth it? And I think brands fundamentally, a huge change, you know, they need to think about what gives them the right to decide what makes fashion. I think that's kind of the question they need to ask. And, you know, if they need to be representatives of their community, their fans, rather than it being more like this one-to-many relationship. brands will have to also take on this many-to-many relationship where they are part of the community and they service the community. I think that's always been obviously what they say, but ultimately decisions get made and passed down and externally communicated. And there's consumer research and things like that. But, it's consumer creation and co-creation that will trump in the end. I think brands are already realizing that. So they're looking at how do we, integrate with the community better. But yeah, it's a massive shift, I think, like for brands to really go, because they're centralized entities. And for them, I think, to survive, their story has to still resonate, right? Like, why does someone care about a brand? What does that, it's the status, it's the signaling, but does that still matter? Like, I think it's like, for example, like you see Adidas partnering with like Bored Ape Yacht Club and, things like that. It's like that, the fact that they're partnering with the NFT community is really like interesting. Or, Nike buying Artifact, that was insane. That's massive. But it's like, you see brands are realizing now that, it's about the community and it's about their communities and giving people. So yeah, really transitioning from thinking about it's like a really fundamental shift. I think that's going to happen.
Well said. So Joy and I, we talk a lot about fashion, digital fashion, and she's already like in the game and I'm tagging along very soon. But I'm curious to know, well, the conversations we have is Joy is sometimes wondering, does it even make sense to mint an NFT as in based off of the design she makes? When she designs something like a beautiful design, she's like, I don't know if it's ethical, like, because if someone buys it, they're not going to be able to wear it. So what is your thought on that? How can you help us, not feel so bad, or, other creators or designers listening in terms of digital fashion and NFTs? Like, how does it connect? How can we do it in an ethical way, have a purpose, have some value with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like, it comes down to like, there are sustainable ways to mint it. So there's different chains. Obviously, if you're working on Ethereum, that's quite the high gas fees and the way that the chain is set up. But we're on Flow and like Solana and Polygon are definitely more. So there's different like technical ways for it to be more sustainable. In terms of the wearing and the utility, I think it's interesting because for some people that doesn't matter. For some people they're collectors and they want to own a piece of your story. And I think that's really, if you're going to be a designer in Web3, like that's really what you have to think about. People are collecting what you're putting out, and it's like your story as an artist actually trumps, like that's what they're collecting. They're collecting your story and kind of the potential of what your items can be. So really, even if there's no utility today, if you have a vision, that in 10 years from now, you will have that utility available, or you have this roadmap for your own project, that's really what they buy into. So I think like, if you're thinking about becoming an NFT artist, I'd say like, think about your personal, creative roadmap in a way. And what all these pieces that you're creating, how do they connect together? Like, what does someone owning your piece mean for them? So, okay, if you own this piece, when I do my collection in 10 years from now, you're still going to be, like, how does it connect? I think that's it. It's like, think about your own metaverse. You are your own metaverse. And so it's like, how do everything you create connect back to it? What's the story that you're trying to tell? And be really, out there about your story and who you are. And I think that's it. People in this space are here for the creator. That's it. I think the item itself, of course it matters and stuff like that, but people are looking at who made it, what's the story, what's the vision, how does it connect? I think those are things to think about.
I think the idea, as you were explaining that, I was just thinking about the idea of intellectual property, because sometimes it could just, once you own it, and it could inspire whoever the collector is. I could be a designer and still be a collector. And when I buy this NFT, it could inspire a collection that I might work on. So You definitely made a great point there. And I think, Joy, how do you feel about that? You're
Yeah.
gonna be moving soon.
I was just right when you were speaking, I was thinking, I think for me it's a mental thing, because if I, let's say, have a painting and I make it an NFT, that's not like a problem for me, because I feel like it's art, it's a painting. But thinking about fashion, like if Salimi makes an haute couture dress or something, you expect them to kind of have the, like, fashion for me is still something physical, and I still expect, like, I don't know, I'm just thinking if like somebody buys my fashion design or NFT, I just wish I could give them some more beyond, and I might can in the future in like form of filters and form of, you know, they can wear it, whatever. But maybe that's like a mental thing for me right now, to think, oh, like they're gonna be sitting there with my fashion design, and then, you know, because art, you can display it, you can have it as your profile picture, but the fashion aspect of it, you're not going to have it like as your avatar profile, the one bomber jacket you just bought from me, you know. So it's a bit of a mental game, I think, for me.
Yeah, it is. It's like a transition. You're right, fashion comes with this inherent like utility. It's got to be wearable. But I think, like, you know, think about, like, I don't know, like, yeah, that haute couture dress, right? Maybe like 10 people wear that dress ever, but they remember the video of it in the fashion show, you know, like, it's like, and that's kind of that's it, you know, like that's that dress. So I think it's kind of like, I don't know, I think it's interesting to think about what digital fashion ownership means with wearability, without wearability, because I actually think, yeah, in the digital world, it kind of does have this, it takes on, you know, this different types of properties, and yeah, like art, like, you know, collecting pieces, you know, there's a lot of like haute couture fashion that's pretty unwearable as well. And so, yeah, I don't know, I'd say, like, kind of like, rather than seeing that as a you know, like a negative thing, like, how do you kind of flip it on its head and kind of take advantage of the fact that, hey, no one has to wear this, so I can just go completely wild on this thing. And I don't need to worry about it being wearable. I need to just worry about someone looking at it and feeling like, oh my God, that's amazing. Like, wow. Like, I don't know if you saw the recent Jack Irving pieces that he released for London Fashion Week, that were kind of like, he made them physically, but no one's going to wear those, like, literally impossible to wear them. But that's not what it was about, you know. And I think he was kind of thinking very metaverse first. And so I think there's something interesting about, yeah, almost exploiting the inutility or unusableness of some, you know, of the medium in a way.
I totally get what you're saying, because if you think about it, fashion produces a lot of waste, and now you can play around without having that waste. You can just start from a fresh page, you know. So
yeah.
And I was gonna add that I remember when I sort of, I guess, stumbled upon the word digital fashion in the Web3 sense. I did my research and I came across the Fabricants, I guess, first only digital dress, I
Dress
think,
to be
ever did.
sold. Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, it gave me this feeling. It was just inspiring and exciting, and so you're right. Like, sometimes getting something or having something, or just, even if you can't, I know we're biological beings, and being able to touch and feel is a part of us, and it will always be a part of us. And digital fashion cannot replace that. It's just an add-on, an addition, and also solving these social sustainable issues. However, it can really give a feeling that, I mean, that's some, in its sense, is amazing, you know. Just
Yeah, exactly. I think that's it. Like, you know, like, if you think about the role of fashion, like, there is a very functional role of fashion, right? People need to wear clothes, but that's not what a lot of digital fashion designers are trying to do, right? They're not like, I want to clothe people, I want to make sure people have comfortable shoes, you know, like, they're there to creatively express and give people ways to express their identity in different ways. And I think, like, digital fashion can 100% do that, even more so than physical fashion, because the boundaries are just kind of totally different and kind of like not there. So yeah, I'd say, like, go crazy and make your clothes even more unwearable.
Yeah, totally. I mean, definitely feeling good about something is enough, even if you have to see it, but it's a great balance. And I really want to thank you so much. This has been quite, I'd say, informative, educational. We've learned a lot. And before we wrap up, I would love to hear what you think decentralization means for creators, for fashion designers, and if you could leave maybe a few words to fashion designers listening to you today, what would they be?
I mean, I think what decentralization means is that it empowers what I'd like for it, what we kind of hope that it means. And what we're trying to do is, you know, when we call ourselves decentralized, we have zero, like, it's not about aesthetic, it's not about your style at all. It's about a shared vision. And I think, like, for all designers, fashion or not, it's like, you know, having a vision to create, you know, that you can stay independent, that you can create freely, that you find your audience, that you find your people, and that there's a way to do that, there's a framework to do that. And I think, like, so decentralization means that everyone is kind of has that same vision, you know, and if we all have that same vision, we'll help make it happen for everyone else, you know, support people doing it. If someone's asking about it, help point them in the right direction. And, you know, for you too, you'll probably, if you have questions, ask. Like, there's going to be people out there that also believe in this. And I think, like, I really want to say, like, not just to shout it out, but really come to our Discord, you know, like, our Discord is not just about, like, the Fabricant and what the Fabricant make. Like, we really want, you know, diversity, like, and like, if you think about an ecosystem, right, like, one of the critical things about an ecosystem is biodiversity. Like, that's what makes an ecosystem strong and healthy. So we're looking for just all different types of creators, like, to really come and join us and push us in different directions. And so I would say, like, you know, it's weird, like, it's decentralization, but there's a central kind of vision that everyone connects back to. And that's what really makes it successful, because we're all kind of working towards the same vision. So yeah, I don't know, that's probably kind of a weird answer, but I think, like, I to be honest, I don't know the answer, and I think, like, I'm really excited to learn it from our community. So yeah, come to our Discord and tell me what you think it means, and then we can figure it out together.
Yeah, I was really happy to see that one of my favorite digital fashion designers, Hadiat.
Yes,
She was also part of, I think she's part of your community as well.
Yep.
And she, I don't know what, I think she also
she was in season 0 with the garment, and she's in season 1 with the fabric. So yeah, her stuff's awesome.
And that's really exciting. I mean, I love to see that diversity, you know, bringing all kinds of designers in and not limiting it. And I really appreciate that. Yeah. So thank you. And thank you, the Fabricants. Thank you for the work that you're doing. And yeah, thank you, Nirmala, for being part of today's episode. And if you would like to share your social media information, that would be great. So the listeners can maybe follow you and get more information about what you guys are up to.
Yeah, I'm Nirmala _Shome on Twitter. And I'm not going to say the Fabricant one because it's, like, weirdly spelled, but if you Google the Fabricant, you will find our Twitter. But I would say jump into our Discord, you know, and like, sign up, and we'll love to talk to you there. And yeah, that's it. And thank you for having me. It's really awesome. I really love the work you guys are doing as well. And yeah, hope that we can kind of do more, facilitate more conversations while, you know, learn from you guys. So yeah. Cool.
Yeah, amazing. We love that. And we will put everything in the bio, the Discord and the Twitters. And thank you guys so much all for being part of today's episode. And if you also want to get more involved in what we are doing, we are on Twitter, we are on Instagram, we are NewForum _NCO and NewCoin as well. And we also have a private Telegram group where we keep up with everyone and discuss the latest things in Web3. Thank you, Nirmala, and thank you, Salimi. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And we see you guys in the next episode. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. See you soon.